Welcome back to the Skiing is Believing podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Looking forward to the winter and skiing to start up for everyone. I mean, I know the racers get to race in glaciers and in Finland, but I think for most of people, the ski season will start in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, we always think, November, the racing's on, but really, the season hasn't started in most places across the world. I believe you're heading out in the next couple of weeks down to France.
Yeah, I'm going out to France on the 4th of December. I should be there for the Three Valleys are opening up, and then I'll be there for the Val d'Isère World Cup as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
which should be
Mm,
pretty cool.
very good. So that is now the next men's slalom on the calendar. But let's take a look at what happened this weekend in the women's and men's slaloms from Gurgl in Austria. So Saturday, it was the women's turn to do the slaloms again. 9:30 start British time on a Slovenian course set. Mikaela Shiffrin came down and had a pretty good lead, as per usual. Wendy Holdener was the closest from bib number 14, with Katarina Leensberger coming through in third after run one. Lara Colturi produced a great first run to position herself in fourth. Then it was Camille Rast and all the other talent that is the women's slalom circuit. We saw in the second run Zrinka Lutic come down with what turned out to be the fastest time in run two. And she moved up to ninth position as a long time second run leader. Camille Rast held the lead. Colturi then took it from her by just 200ths of a second, and it was down to the final three. Leensberger came down with the Austrian expectations on her shoulders and missed the time of Colturi and Rast and finished the day in seventh, which confirmed the Albanian her first and her nation's first Alpine Ski Racing World Cup podium. Wendy Holdener looking to return to the podium after nearly a year away, and she also missed the time, so went into third provisionally before it all came down to Mikaela Shiffrin, who won the race in the end by 0.55 of a second. Alan, for World Cup win number 99.
Yeah, sure, yeah. She's lining it up ready for the century, I think, in Killington at home. But there's something else I was going to ask you to, and that is, was you surprised with the um, podium after Shiffrin of the two newbies, if you like, or two newbies to podiums? Was you surprised?
Yeah, go on, Graham.
I was totally not surprised at all to see
Mm.
Lara Colturi on the podium. I know she's just 18 years old, but she has been a real sensation coming through, winning golds at world junior level. The fact that she's the daughter of Olympic champion Daniela Ceccarelli, um, and she has basically been kind of like hothouse bred as a ski racer. The fact that she switched to Albania from Italy is kind of a big loss for the Italian team because they could have done a deal with the Colturis, Team Colturi, and allowed them to train separately, but they didn't. They wanted them to be part of the national team, and it's pretty short-sighted in my opinion. And they switched to Albania. I think it was because. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Lara was going to a ski racing school in Italy, and there was an Albanian there. I can't remember her name, but she was the one that suggested, well, why don't you come over and meet the Albanian Ski Federation and see if you can switch nationalities? And it's great. It's really great that she's out there doing it. Just 18 years old, coached by her mum and her dad, and they're the smallest team on the tour, and now they've got their first World Cup podium. So yeah, absolutely fantastic to see that happen. Obviously, she's coming back from an ACL injury, which she could have done it even earlier if you think about it. Without the ACL tear, she could have had her first podium much earlier. And you go back to kind of Shiffrin, when Shiffrin scored her first podium in World Cup. I think she was 17, as far as I know, and then went on to win the World Championships. Um, So yeah, without the ACL tear, she would have been on the podium, maybe even before that. But she's doing it now, which is brilliant. Camille Rast, 25 years old, has taken a lot longer to kind of come through and to break through onto the World Cup podium. But she's doing it now. She started off more of a giant slalom skier, and in the last couple of seasons, last year and then now this year, she's starting to produce in slalom. And she's got a great technique, lovely way of skiing, always quite exciting to watch. Lots of, a lot of upper body, lower body separation, and really goes for it. So yeah, it's great to see her coming through as well. And she's from the Valais, so similar kind of area in Switzerland to the Mayars, to Loic Mayer and sister, who's also coming through and getting back there on perform.
Yeah. I was just going to say, in answer to your initial question, I would also say no, because Colturi, it's been there. There's been glimpses of it. There's been second runs that she's won. There's been, those sorts of results. She hasn't won World Cup top 10 before this weekend, but you always sensed that the next big result could well be a podium, could even have been a victory. I think for Camille Rast, it's just been a long time coming. Like she's been knocking on the door for a couple of years. I think she's had 2 or 3 fourth place finishes over the last few seasons. She had both of them had great second runs to kick it onto the podium. And yeah, obviously it's great to see some new faces on that podium.
Good.
That have really seized the chance of Vlahova's absence. And we might well see a few more do it in the next few slaloms before she returns. I'm sure, Holden Adieu, Sven Larsson, they're going to have something to say about that, but it's quite possible.
Can I just say, obviously you both think it wasn't so much of a surprise. Can I just put a little other question in, and that is, do you think the conditions in Gurgl have guaranteed that we'll be seeing them in Gurgl again next year?
Well, what the race in Gurgl, Hochgurgl, Obergurgl, it kind of the race course sits between the two. You got Hochgurgl kind of above, and then Obergurgl is the town just below. The race hill there is really wide, which gave them the opportunity to prepare half the side of the hill for the men's event, watered like you wouldn't believe, with the water injection bar, and super icy, and then still icy, and partially watered on the women's side. The women had very cold conditions, like super cold, like -15 in the morning. Perfect, absolutely perfect for ski racing, and it held up really nicely. If you look at the bib numbers that were able to come in, I think Clarisse Bresch, the French skier, came in from bib 59 to make top 30. So and if you look at I think it was 2.41 the cut, the top 30 cut. So when that number is little like that, it's always a good sign that the course has held up for everyone. And 2.41 on the women's was actually better than the 2.75 on the men's, although there was a lot of DNFs on the men's. So I mean, Gurgl, I think having both, I think it's brilliant. I think Levy having both, because Levy went last year to 2 women's races. I think it's much better to have the women's race in Levy, men's race in Levy, and then Gurgl. And it's not on the glacier. It's high, but it's not glacier. But they're able to, the fact that it's north facing and they can make snow up there. I think it's pretty much they'll guarantee that, unless they have a really, really warm autumn. They'll be able to guarantee that race in Gurgl.
Lovely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go through some of the other results from later in the field from Saturday. Paula Moltzan was there again for the Americans in 6th. Leensberger down in 7th. She's there, not quite able to make it back to back after we thought that maybe it would kickstart a big season for her after the podium in Levy, but we'll have to see. Melanie Mayer, who Graham mentioned, in 10th. The world champion Lauren Saint-Germain in 11th. Cornelia Erland came from bib 34 for Sweden into 14th. Sven Larsson had a great second run after a really poor first. So Sweden had, what is it now, 4 in the top 17. Hector Erland, Sven Larsson, and Estelle Alfon, the daughter of Luc Alfon, in 17th. And then, well, we mentioned that Colturi chose Albania over Italy. Their top racer was down in 20th in Martina Petellini, so I'm sure that they would have appreciated Colturi. Clarissa Bresch, 59, as Graham said, 23rd place for her. And the biggest bib to qualify for the second run was actually Giorgia Colom, the 18-year-old Italian. Only her 3rd World Cup start. She picked up 3 medals at the Youth Olympics in Gangwon, and she was disqualified as she was taking the last gate. She fell and then went the wrong way, went the wrong side of the final red, and slides across the line and misses out. She was
I remember. Yeah, that was a shame. That was a shame.
Inches away from her first World Cup point score, and she just missed it.
Oh well, I mean, it's it's one of those things. You've got to attack the second run. You've got nothing to lose in that situation, and there's you don't want to just ski down for a few World Cup points. You want to try and attack both runs flat out. I'd just like to say, going back to Wendy Holdner, that it's fantastic to see her back. Obviously, she had the broken ankle last year, but also the fact that her brother Kevin lost his battle with cancer and died last February. And there was actually a Swiss TV documentary that came out this summer that's quite a harrowing watch. So Wendy has been through quite a bit in the last 12 months, and it's great to see her back. And that first run that she had, starting from bib 14, to come down and be the only one that was in striking distance, really, of Shiffrin's time, who skied from bib number 1. I mean, when Shiffrin skied, it was like, well, that looks like a pretty good run. I mean, for Shiffrin, there was some, kind of like, it wasn't what you would call skidding, but it wasn't as, as absolutely, nailed down and knifing the snow like it sometimes is. But it was typical with Mikaela Shiffrin. She always seems to pick a section where she goes so much faster than anyone else. She'll be, top section, in that first run, she was beatable. There were races coming down. They were getting the green light on the top section. You could stay in for the second section, but then that third section, when it went from steep to flat on a slight side hill, she was light years ahead of anyone else, and that's what gave her the huge lead on that run 1. And then when you're going into the second run and you've got such a huge lead, and you're such a tactical, genius that Shiffrin is, it's virtually guaranteed that she's going to make another win. It's just like when you're starting that second run in 30. I mean, obviously it's so hard. I mean, she said in the interview afterwards, the wait, because there always is a longer wait for the last skier. Because the current podium have to come out from the leader's chair. They have to stand. You wait so much longer. It's like a kind of almost a 2-minute wait before you then start, as opposed to kind of like maybe 30 seconds after the last race is finished, you then go. This was long, and she was waiting up there in the start gate. But that's what she does. She delivers, under pressure so well. And 99 wins, 1 more in Killington, and it'll be everyone will be talking about Mikaela Shiffrin, and no one will be talking about Marcel Hirscher and Lindsey Vonn.
Something I took from the interview. She was stood at the top, and she was coming them down, and saw how well Colturi had done, that Holdener had missed it, that Leensberger had missed it, and she said in the interview, didn't she? She thought, shit, like that. She thought it might just get away today.
Well, she said she was very nervous.
Yeah.
Said she was very nervous on the second run. Yeah.
So that is now 33 different resorts that she has won World Cups in. a 100th World Cup slalom top 10, and the last 6 slaloms she started, she's won. So surely, if you take away,
are there any
all
World Cups on the calendar where she hasn't won a World Cup slalom in? That's what we should be asking ourselves.
That's a good question.
I'm not even
Wouldn't-
sure if there are. The current
It is a good
calendar.
question.
Yeah, there are 10.
Good
I
on
think there
that.
are 10 women's World Cups on the calendar.
Yeah.
Well,
I think she might have won in all of them.
I know that's what Alan's going to ask me that next week as my question. Yeah, that's interesting actually. So with all those statistics I've just reamed off, and the fact that Vlhova will not be there, surely she is the favourite. If you take away all the contexts and potential pressure to do it on Sunday.
Who knows?
in Killington. Well, Killington is one of those places where it's East Coast US, so you just don't know what you're going to get weather-wise. You know, it could be like super cold, or it could be just like raining and foggy and nasty. So it's not a foregone conclusion that she will win in Killington. If it's like the one kind of snow conditions where Shiffrin is going to struggle is on kind of like slushy snow. And didn't we have a freak result in Killington a couple of years ago where, it was like almost, it's not quite as like where Daniel Yule won in Chamonix, starting like first on the second run, placed 30th, started first, won the race. But yeah, it depends on the weather. And it depends on what that hill is like when we get to Killington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't I'd wait and see the weather forecast before you put your money on it. That's what I would do.
Yeah. We'll be making those picks a little later in the week.
Yeah.
Graham, I did want to ask you about Vicky Palla. When she crossed the line, she was into 31st position, got moved down to 49th by the end of the first run. I believe she's got one more chance on Sunday, and then Reese might well be in.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, is it? So, I mean, Vicky didn't do badly. She was less than a second off making the cut. It doesn't really matter about the placing. It's more how far in time you are away from that top 30 cut. I mean, it was a very tight race, and she was, I think, 0.8, around about 0.8 off. Whether Reese would have been able to do better, I don't know. The last 2 times that they raced against each other, Reese beat Vicky down in New Zealand this summer. So, I mean, for me, if I was performance director, which I'm not anymore, I would have done timed runs. Most top national teams do qualifying timed runs for who races World Cup. And you know what? It's not about the stage that they're both at. It's not about World Cup. You don't want to get too fixated about, producing the goods on World Cup. You've got to try and build your performance in Europa Cup, in FIS races, to get those points, to get that consistent performance in Europa Cup. If you look at the pathway that Dave had when he came through, it was about winning those Europa Cups, and it was about winning the Europa Cup title. That was what really set Dave up to be able to come through and to come onto World Cup. Racing onto World Cup and trying to score and getting fixated with, got to try and make top 30, is kind of like chasing after, cheap FIS points, going to races, on the other side of the globe where you'll get really good FIS points, and then you'll not be able to ski those points for the rest of that season and the season after. It's not the way to go. But I would say that the British team need to get their act together a little bit and to organise timed runs as to who starts. And that could well be, if we got the Carrick Smiths really coming through and starting, knocking on the door. As far as I know, though, we've got another spot on men's tour, because top 60 is what you need to be on the World Cup start list to gain quota spots. So I think we've got 5 in men's slalom. So there is spots available. No, we've got 4 in men's slalom. So there is another spot. And that's the thing is if either Reese or Vicky get a decent point score, so say they place, I don't know, 25th or something like that, it's enough points to get them into the top 60 on the World Cup start list, which is different from the World Cup list in that it includes last year's points as well. That they will get 2 spots. So if Vicky had qualified, got a second run, and then even just made the finish because there was a few DNFs, that would have been enough points to get Reese a start spot in Killington. So one will do the other a favor, and obviously you want into teammate rivalry, but you don't want that to kind of destroy any kind of team spirit, and the fact that we're all in this together, and it's not the opponents are out there, and there's lots of them all over the globe, from Albania to to the USA, and you don't want to be fighting your own teammates.
No. Let's move to the men's slalom on Sunday. Linus Strasser came down, maybe with the wrong bib, and that was
wrong skis.
Quite
wrong setup, that's for sure.
Quite a scruffy run. Just about made it into the finish. Clement Noel came down, took his lead by over 3 seconds. And we thought, okay, well, Strasser wasn't very good. It's a good ski from Noel, minimal errors. And it turned out to be ridiculously quick from the Olympic champion. 0.88 of a second quicker than anybody, in fact. Atali McGrath it was, who was closest in that first run, with good positions again from Stephen Amier. Fabio Gistrine was in the mix, and our own Dave Ryding was again 5th after the first run. Into the second run, there was good skis from Haugen, who was the quickest in the second run to move up 17 places into 9th. Christoffersen came down and couldn't take the lead from Switzerland's Loic Maillard. Then it was the turn of Sweden's Christopher Jakobsen, and he took the lead. Then it was up to the final 3. Jakobsen coming from 8th in the first run. Amier it was. He missed the time by 17 hundredths. Then it was Atali McGrath, and that was not okay. He missed it by 1/100th of a second. And it came down to Clement Noel, who had a huge advantage, and in the end won it by just 0.43 of a second to make it 2 wins out of 2 for him to start the slalom season. 1 in Levy, 1 in Gurgl, back-to-back wins for him for the first time since January 2019. And Noel, Jakobsen, McGrath was how the podium concluded. Alan.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Graham, actually. Well, yourself as well, but certainly Graham. Were you surprised at all the DNFs in the men's?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention that.
Right, well, there we go. That's the one thing you didn't mention. Fella not making the finish. A double DNF, Levy, and then Gurgl, when he didn't DNF at all last winter. Yeah, and Solden. He didn't DNF in slalom. He won the Crystal Globe in slalom last winter, and now he is basically 2 races, no points, and it's going to be tough for him. But it's not over yet. There is a lot of slaloms on the men's tour. I think there's 12 slaloms on the men's tour. So, if he hangs in there, and he knows, if Clement Noel, when he's good, he's brilliant. And we've seen the brilliance of him. We saw the brilliance of him in the second run in Levy. First run, he almost went out. I mean, he almost went out. There was an incredible recovery on that first run in Levy. Second run was outstanding, won the race. This time it was the other way around. First run was absolutely perfection. And when Noel is on form like that, he just looks like he's the fastest slalom skier in the world. There's no one that can go as fast. The way that he is so balanced, the way he's got such long levers, and yet so light on his feet, and he takes a really aggressive line. He's got everything. But he said that it's difficult to keep your balance when you're skiing on that such a slick slope. And if you go with a very aggressive setup, so if you go with super sharp, I hate the word aggressive. It's just like, doesn't mean anything. if you go with a super sharp setup, it's difficult to hold balance. And on the second run, you saw maybe 3 or 4 recoveries again from Noel, where he just hung on into the course to win the race. And again, like Shiffrin, he did enough to win. But looking forward, he's not the most consistent, and okay, he's won 2, but how long is that streak going to go? He's going to go to Val d'Isère, his home hill. He moved to Val d'Isère when he was a teenager, and he actually lived, and he was put up by the local baker, and he was part of that Val d'Isère ski team. And I think he was originally from the Vosges, and he came to Val d'Isère, and he's Val d'Isère's adopted son, if you like. But it's going to be huge. I mean, it's the pressure of the home race in Val d'Isère, having 1-2 coming in, is going to be massive. I hope he wins it, because it will be huge. But yeah, Clement Noel is virtually right now unstoppable. But if he gets those jips again, you just don't know. Yeah. You just don't know what can happen with him.
Yeah. There's another 1,000 World Cup men's slalom points up for grabs this season. And I'm not saying that someone's going to go out and win all 10, but that's how some people will be viewing it. Someone like Manu Feller, who hasn't picked up one yet. Christopher Jakobsen, 4th World Cup podium for him. He was 2nd in Kitzbühel last year. Atelier McGrath, after his GS podium in Solden, gets off the mark for the slalom season.
So Atelier McGrath, when he goes, it's not okay, he was referring to the Solden 100th, that he was knocked down from 2nd. Kristoffersen beat him by 100th in Solden, and he went from 2nd to 3rd. He also, in Adelboden last year, I think, missed a win to Feller by 200s. So he's had bad luck with the hundreds over the last 12 months. So that's why he said it's not okay. I mean, he was joking. He's still on the podium. It's still a great result. But, you got to be, that's 3 when it's hundredths of a second to decide it. It's gone the wrong way. He's not had one that's gone the right way yet.
Moving to later in the field, Stephen Amier bettering his personal best from Levy into 4th.
Well, that's great from Amier, because, if we're talking about Lara Colturi, her mum won gold in Salt Lake in the Super G, Daniela Ceccarelli. Stephen Amier's dad, Sebastian Amier, won the silver in Salt Lake in the same Olympic Games. So you've got offspring of Salt Lake City Olympic medalists. One of them made her first podium, and Stephen Amier just missed out on his first podium in 4. And the guy that Amier beat, Alan Baxter, was in the start gate coaching Dave Ryding. So there we go. That's a nice little circle for you.
Yeah.
And he was 7th.
Yes. Ryding.
I felt that was, I actually called it an also nearly day. Yeah. Because I feel that again, 5th from the first run, wasn't quite the same in Levy because he had lost the time earlier in the run. But I did feel that, I don't know, Jakobsen seemed to be so quick in that last sector that, nobody was making time up in that part of the course following him. And Dave just struggled with it too.
So Dave on the first run had a couple of big mistakes, and he was close to Clement Noel. Did he not go into? Did he go into second?
Second,
yeah. He was in second for a long time before that kind of got filled in with others coming through. And I think the course, maybe they worked it out. They worked out that it was more icy than it looked on in course inspection. I mean, you saw racers on course inspection going up with their race skis with a serviceman, trying a few turns out on the ice, but you don't get the same feeling as, actually racing it at speed. You don't know what it's going to do until you actually put your edges on it. And when they put their edges on it, they found that the snow was icy. So it wasn't what the Austrians call, it wasn't aggressive. It was icy. It was skiddy. it annoys me that they use the same word aggressive for both the setup and for the snow conditions. If you've got aggressive snow, then you have less aggressive setup. If you have non-aggressive snow, and to a recreational skier, it might look like, if it's boilerplate blue ice that you could that you can see through, that looks almost bulletproof. If it's like that, then it's actually not aggressive. It's not catchy. The snow isn't catchy. If it's catchy, then it's aggressive. And then you need slightly not so sharp edges. But on that boilerplate stuff, you need super sharp setup and a super aggressive setup. And I don't think, certainly, certainly Linus Strasser didn't get the setup right. He did, he was just not gripping on any turn at all, and it was fairly clear. Sometimes when you see number one come down and you think, "Oh, how good was that run?" No, this was just like, I think Ed Drake I was watching on Eurosport. Ed Drake and Marcel Mathis was like, "No, that was a horrible run. That was an absolute shocker." And it was kind of unlucky to get, maybe it was the one time in slalom it was unlucky to get bib one, because normally, that's the thing, what it's going to feel like, and bib one is normally a big advantage, but not in Gurgl.
And not to Henrik Kristoffersen.
No, you don't like it.
Just behind Dave Ryding was Edward Halborg, Alan.
Yeah,
that was crazy for us, and we felt sort of a bit of a connection with.
Oh, did you meet him up in Levy? Did you?
Yeah.
Well, we saw him and spoke to him, and just behind, my mum and my grandma were there in the grandstand, and just next to them were his family. And after his first run in Levy, they were all in tears because he'd gone into 8th position in the home World Cup from bib 40.
Yeah. It was almost too good. It was almost too good. The pressure was then just too much.
Yeah.
Ended up 24th, and then came from bib 39 this week into 11th in the first run, and moved up to 8th position for a huge World Cup personal best. I think it's only his 5th World Cup start, something crazy like that. 2nd in slalom, and already knocking it into the top 8. So absolutely fantastic stuff for Finland. Strine, who was 4th after the first run, tied 9th with Haugen. Paco Rassa with a good result for France into 14th, up 9 places in run 2. Up 8 places in run 2 was Alex Venazza to 17th for Italy. AJ Guinness was actually the 4th quickest on the second run and placed 19th. Benjamin Ritchie was once again in the points for the USA from bib number 48. And it was good to see Laurie Taylor back in the points, 23rd for him, and 8th fastest on the second run, Alan.
Yeah, he had a good second run. We've said it all along, haven't we? They just need to put 2 runs together. And it's easier said than done, obviously. But he's getting there, isn't he?
Graham,
Laurie Taylor's certainly getting there, and he's he's skiing on the heads, the same as Dave now. It's a shame that Billy went out on run 1 and straddled, because he was skiing quickly. I think that he would have made the cut with the number of DNFs that there were. Unfortunately, he was one of them. But with the number of DNFs, it was an opportunity for Billy Major to get in there and to keep scoring World Cup points, because it's really important to get those points to stay in the top 30 of the World Cup start list. And unfortunately, Billy's dropped out of the top 30. In fact, Laurie has gone ahead of Billy on the World Cup start list. And we mentioned Ben Ritchie, the American. He's moving his way up now as well. He's just gone 1 place ahead of Laurie, so he's in 34th. Pinero, should we call him that now? Pinero or Pinero Broughton? Pinero Broughton. Obviously, he DNF'd. He's now in 33rd, but obviously Schwarz is not back yet. I'm not sure Schwarz will be back for Val d'Isère, though. He might be back on the start list. Tommaso Sala wasn't there. So there's a couple of people missing.
Panfo as well.
Pantero is missing, who's still ahead of Broughton. So I'm not sure. I think Pinheiro Broughton might be back out of the top 30 again.
Yeah.
Because he went in, he might now, because he DNF'd, he might go back out. It depends on who turns up, and of these, it depends on whether Schwarz is back for Val d'Isère. I don't have the inside story of when Schwarz will be back, but who knows? And then the fights to get into the top 30 of the World Cup start list, and because if you don't, then you get pushed back, and then you're starting on FIS points, and it could be quite a leap. You could be starting, say, 28th or 29th, and then suddenly you're back and in the 40s. Because there's two ranking systems which run side by side. The FIS point system, which is supposed to kind of cover everyone who races, and then the World Cup points system, the World Cup start list system, which is is brutal, but brutally fair and brutally honest. It's just down to you score World Cup points, that's it. They points mean prizes.
Yes, there were
just one final thing on the World Cup start list. Well, I've got it open and I'm looking at it. Dave Ryding's still in the top 7.
Yes,
but only just, and he's being chased down hard by Christopher Jakobsen, and this is the quirk of the World Cup start list, because Jakobsen started the season with less points from the previous year. He loses 11 points less than Dave loses every time that there's a race. So what they do is they take, say there are 10 races. There's 12, but I can't do the maths. Say there's 10 races and you do a race, you lose a tenth of your previous year's points.
Yeah.
And then you add on everything you scored this year. But because Jakobsen had less points at the start of the season, he's losing 11 less. So it would mean that for Dave to stay in the top 7, he'll need a big result in Val d'Isère, or Jakobsen to go out, which is highly likely because he has his issues making the finish as well. So, but he's done very well this year, and he seems to have cured that DNF problem that he had for a while. So yeah, it's a battle. It's and start numbers sometimes mean a lot. They didn't mean so much in Gurgl, but in some races you've got to be in that early start, that top 7, in order to be able to actually have a chance of winning.
There were some other first run DNFs to mention later in the field. Number 29, he was Lucas Pinheiro Broughton, going out with the straddle, the first Brazilian barrier that's been put in his way since the switch. I mean, he said in the week, I'm going to Gurgl to podium. Why else would I go? Almost. Like, obviously, I'm going there to podium, but again, who isn't? So, yeah, he didn't look particularly happy. He looked a little bit...
He looked nervous, I thought.
Yeah, you said that, didn't you?
When they interviewed him before the races, I said to you, I said, he looks nervous to me. Maybe he realised that it's not as straightforward as he was thinking or hoping.
I think it's probably because he's had it. Well, he's just quite literally danced his way into the top 4 twice, and I think it's good that he's realised it's not that easy. He knows it's not that easy because he's been there and done it before. But yeah, I think it's good to have a challenge like this, and that it might well be good that he's got to sort of reset the slalom clock and go from the similar sort of position that he did in Levy. He's got a little bit of prep time now. Whether he goes to Beaver Creek or not, it doesn't really matter.
No.
But yeah, Graham, you got any takes on Broughton?
I think that Broughton will be,
as well.
Yeah. Pinheiro will be winning a World Cup for Brazil this season. That's my call. I'll put money on it. He's got the ability. He's only been out for a year. He's been training while he's been out. He's got the backing of Red Bull and a huge sponsorship package behind him. He's got Charlie Raposo working with the team. Big up Charlie. And he will be winning. He is a natural born winner. And whether he's racing for Norway or Brazil, it doesn't really matter. He is a class skier, and it's difficult, when you've got those high start numbers, but it won't be long before he scores enough World Cup points to get that start number down and be close enough to have a fantastic second run charge to win the race.
Marcel Hirscher. Now,
shall I mention Mike Tyson at this point?
I think the GS is there. The slalom, it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said, I think, in his interview that if it was boilerplate ice, if it was that water injected super ice, that he would have no chance. And I think he knew before the start that he would have no chance when he went onto the steep. He's not found the setup yet for those conditions. But again, the one thing that Hirscher did, apart from winning a whole load of races, that one thing he did really well was he was able to change his equipment to solve these problems, and that's what he's been doing with the Van Deer team for that's what he did when he was on Atomic. He would take bits of equipment from other manufacturers and get them to paint it red and pretend it was Atomic because he'd worked out that it was better. So he is super technical when it comes down to the equipment and getting that set up right. And I think he's still enjoying it. He's not completely out of it yet. But I think the kind of maybe the novelty wore off a little bit when he went onto that steep and on the boilerplate at 40. But he's not as old as Dave. That's the thing. The fact is that the thing is he's been out of the game for 5 years. He's not the oldest in the field. In fact, Dave's not the oldest in the field. I think Stefano Gross is the oldest. And I think he's only 38. I mean, if you look at the downhillers, Johan Clary, the oldest ever Alpine medalist, 42. So, the slalomers are still youngsters when it comes to ski racing. It's downhill that you can really keep going for a long time.
Can you tell he didn't do slalom?
I quit slalom very early on. That's for sure. When I started downhill.
Was that because of your age?
Yeah, because I grew up.
Yes. I think there's a few other mentions I'd like to give. Fabian Axwartz, who made the second run in Levy but didn't score, did get his second World Cup point score in 27th, and Gross, who we mentioned there, 38 years old, came into 28th from bib 35. We didn't actually have any second run DNFs, which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, we did see a very strange...
I think Ramon Sennhuisen would have liked to have been a DNF.
Yeah.
Again, it was like number one on the second run and number one on the first run were both absolutely horrific runs. And I think they'll laugh about it later, but probably not right now.
Yeah.
We saw a very strange pre-race ritual from Ramon Sennhuisen with the... I don't know how to describe it. What would you call it? The cold reliever, I suppose it is, that he stuck up his nose. Apparently it's some sort of race ritual. Atterley McGrath's defended him. People were saying that he's, what's he putting in his nose before he's about to kick out the start gate.
Well, let's not talk about Vic Sinex when we've got Alan Baxter kind of at the World Cup there.
I didn't want to bring it up, Graham.
Yeah. I thought that Salarich, the Spanish, he had the best pre-race ritual. Did you see him playing? Was it paddle paddle or kind of Is it paddle they play? It's kind of like poor man's tennis, but actually in the snow.
Hey, that's Shemi's
actually no, it's wrong.
That's
it's rich man's tennis. It's the wrong way around.
I was gonna say I've seen Shemi playing that.
Exactly.
You want to be careful what you say.
Point, exactly.
Okay, I think that is a lot of the points covered. Probably not all of the points. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Austria, home race. I mean, I don't speak German, so there's no point me looking at the newspaper. But I would think that they haven't had the best of reactions to that weekend, because their best result was Katharina Liensberger in 7th, and on the men's side, Fabio Gistrine in joint 9th.
Well, there is a German word that you probably should know. It's called Schadenfreude. It means that you are kind of happy with someone else's failure. That is what it means. Schaden is basically schade is the kind of a shame, and I think that's what the newspapers in Austria will be saying. Not that I have Schadenfreude. I just think it's a schade that the Austrians didn't get on the podiums, particularly when they got 1, 2, and 3 last year.
Yeah.
And I think that the women's team are doing a lot better than they were last year. Not just Liensberger, but the whole team seem to be skiing better. I think that they've got some great racers coming through as well, great young skiers coming through, and Fella, as I say, will be back, and he's a proven winner. And again, I think he will, even though he's 2 races down and 0 for 2, then I think he's going to be back winning. And he's going to be there and thereabouts for the slalom Crystal Globe at the end of the season.
I'm just trying to think now. The next home race, it will be Semmering.
So for the women, it's Semmering.
And
the men, Kitzbühel. Yes.
Wow.
So no pressure there then.
Exactly.
For the slalomers, yeah.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes. Obviously, a bit of a wait, but they'll already be thinking we need a big result there.
But before that, the women go off to Killington
Wow.
and the men's go off. Before this.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Next weekend, the women are in Killington and the men are in Beaver Creek. Is that right?
That's the week after.
That's the week after, isn't it?
Yeah. Why have the men got a week off?
Yeah, they do.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Nothing makes sense. I think the men have got a week off because they couldn't fill the gap that was left by Lake Louise pulling out of the World Cup at the last minute. And Beaver Creek want to have it on that week. On that, that's the weekend where they want to have it. They didn't want to move it forward because I think it would clash with Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So Beaver Creek want to avoid Thanksgiving. Lake Louise are out of the schedule. We haven't found a replacement for Lake Louise. Lake Louise is a massive loss for the Alpine Tour, basically, to not be able to hold that downhill there, because it's a great downhill to start off with. Lake Louise is a brilliant warm up before you go to the Birds of Prey, and now the downhill is straight in on the Birds of Prey, on the Talon, the brink. It's brutal. That course is brutal, and no warm up. There you go. So that'll be a fun weekend, but that's in 2 weekends' time, isn't it? Killington this coming weekend.
Someone that did like Lake Louise is Lindsay Vonn, and she has said St. Moritz for the Super Gs will be her return on the 21st and 22nd of December. Whether she's going to be involved in some way in Beaver Creek when the women go there on the 14th and 15th, I'm wondering whether she's going to forerun or camera race or something like that. A little bit of a teaser before she comes back to it the week later.
Well, she wouldn't be able to forerun the men's and then race the women's, because that would be within your 10-day rule. That would be an unfair advantage. So you wouldn't be able to forerun the men's World Cup downhill and then race the women's World Cup
Maybe
downhill.
the women's. Could she do the women's?
She could definitely forerun the women's. There's nothing to stop her doing that. I mean, that's what the whole point of forerunners is you can give young skiers a chance to get some experience on the course. Or older skiers who haven't skied for 5 years.
Well, you mentioned old downhillers, and you've got Adrian Teo and Christoph Innerhofer on the men's side. You've got Lindsay Vonn on the women's, because she's 42.
she is 40. She's not 42.
No,
she's 40
she's
as well. I know.
42
She's
as well.
40.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
40 as
As
well.
well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, she just turned 40, hasn't she? Yeah, I mean, it's not the fact of her age. I think for me, it's the fact that she's taken the last 5 years to effectively repair her body of all these different injuries that she had. She had back issues, she had, elbow, shoulder, and obviously the knee she's had a partial knee replacement. And I think Bruno Kernan and Sonia Neff have both gone through a full knee replacement. And they were like, we would never, ever try and ski race again, because if you do crash again, the fact that you've got this, metal lump in your joint,
Yeah.
it's going to make it a whole lot worse if you then suddenly put that under pressure and, and swivel around on it. I mean, my mother-in-law has just had a full knee replacement, and it's brutal. It's a really brutal operation. And I mean, obviously, Lindsay didn't have the full knee replacement, but I think it was kind of half. I don't know whether it was on the femur or the tibia that, something got replaced. I think it was one side, not the other. I think if you do one side, you've got to do top and bottom, because you're basically putting plastic and metal into your knee.
Yeah.
And it's pretty horrific. I think it's great that she's back, but I'm just worried. I think I'm worried that that she's taking an awful lot of risk for when she doesn't need to. She's got all this, she's got to this stage where she can ski without pain. Why not just ski and just enjoy skiing? She's got the rest of her life to just enjoy skiing. He doesn't have to ski on injected, super icy pistes with razor sharp edges and race boots that are just kind of, like concrete, and every single shock then just comes up through your knees and through your body. There's a lot to skiing as an ex-racer. There's a lot to skiing that you can do, that you can really enjoy yourself. You can go ski touring, you can ski powder, you can teach skiing like I do and enjoy that. You can coach, and you still get that reward and that benefit from skiing. You don't have to go back to chucking yourself down an icy downhill. Although it was fun. I did it with a camera for a few years. I think doing it with a camera, you're not racing. It's just the racing that's going to be tough. But I wish her all the best, obviously. And and it would be amazing. It would be an incredible story if she was to come back and be competitive, and then potentially go to the next Olympics and race in Cortina and win a medal. That's the fairy tale. But then there is, it could be fairy tale or it could be nightmare. It could be, it's one or the other. This is going to end either really well or, really badly, or hopefully it'll just kind of neither, and it'll just end.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. I'm going to do a quick run through of the overall standings and how they're looking after a very small number of races, of course. Mikaela Shiffrin leads the women's overall and the slalom standings, 97 points ahead of Leensburg in the overall, 84 points ahead of Leensburg in the slalom. In the overall, Dieu is third with Rast fourth. In the slalom, Dieu and Rast are tied third with Colturi fifth. On the men's side, Clement Noel is tied with Henrik Kristoffersen at the top of the overall on 200 points apiece. Steen Olsen second, McGrath fourth, Maillard fifth. In the slalom, Noel leads 80 points ahead of Kristoffersen, 95 points ahead of Maillard, who's just ahead of Jakobsen, then Amier, and Dave Ryding for Great Britain is eighth on 51 World Cup points after 2 races. But a bit of a wait until we see those lot again from the men's slalom. I did also want to touch on the first Europa Cup races of the season that were up in Levy. It was double men's slalom this weekend. On Saturday, Tommaso Sacciardi came from bib 36, up 10 places in the second run to win ahead of Mikkel Remzoe of Norway and Simon Roland from Austria. On Sunday, it was again bib number 36 that won in Norway's Oscar Andreas Sandvik, he came up 24 places in the second run to take the win. 1800ths ahead of Switzerland's Matthias Itten, who led the first run, and Mikaela, who was second on Saturday, third on Sunday, ahead of Antoine Azalan, who came from bib number 59 into fourth place. We wanted to mention the Europa Cup, so we'll do it as well with some of the NORAMs throughout the season. And also, Freddie and Luca Carrick-Smith both made their Europa Cup debuts this weekend, unfortunately. Freddie got into the second run, or got a second run, with a 42nd place finish in the first run on Sunday, but wasn't able to finish the second run. Luca had 2 first run DNFs, but it's, as you said just before we went on the recording, Alan, it's all about the experience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, everybody starts somewhere, and once you get started, that's when the journey begins, and that's when they'll make progress, I think, and they'll learn. You don't learn for getting it right all the time.
Graham?
Yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to the Carrick-Smith guys coming through. It's going to be a real boost, and watch this space. I mean, all 3 of them have got the potential to end up on World Cup, and it's the next generation that's coming through. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Good.
I think that is all of the boxes ticked. Thank you very much, Graham, for joining us, and I'm sure we'd be happy to have you again later on in the season.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to getting out to the Alps and getting my skis on, on snow, and I'm going to be most of the season. I'm going to be out in the French Alps, kind of Val d'Isère, Three Valleys. I've got a little bit of a trip to the World University Games in January, which could be quite fun. But as I say, I'm going to be in Val d'Isère for that men's World Cup that weekend, so that'll be cool as well. And I'm doing and commentating for Ski Sunday when it starts. Ski Sunday run will be 7 shows, starting I think in Kranjska Gora for the women's race just after New Year, and then running through to the World Championships. Looking forward to commentating on the ski racing for the BBC again for God knows how many years I've been doing it now. I think 1999.
Wow.
I've been working on Ski Sunday, so very much looking forward to be doing that, and also to be getting out and skiing. So very, very lucky. Keep it going.
Well, and enjoy Val d'Isère. It could be a very good weekend for the French, as it could be, fingers crossed, for the Brits.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and have a good season.
Yeah.
Yeah.